All right, Harry, we're in Luke chapter 22, reading verse 54 and 55. It's about Jesus being led away. So it starts off, then seizing him, they led him away and took him into the house of the high priest. Peter followed at a distance. And when some there had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and had sat down together, Peter sat down with them.
Yeah, they led Jesus away as a lamb to its shearer. And this was written long ago by Isaiah, and this is the story. So why was Jesus brought to the house of the high priest? And that was where the Sanhedrin, the high Jewish council, meets. And they don't normally meet at night, but that's what they were doing. This is when Jesus was there. So the seven leading men of Israel and the high priest preside over that. And these folks were desperate to solve the Jesus problem. They've been looking for answers for a long time. And they're looking for false witnesses to convict Jesus. And that was not a good spot. The Apostle Peter, it says, followed at a distance and went into the courtyard. That was really brave of Peter so far, because that is a hostile territory. These people have Jesus. And do you want to read 60 to 62?
Yeah, for sure. It says, Peter replied, man, I don't know what you're talking about. Just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed. The Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. Then Peter remembered the word the Lord had spoken to him. Before the rooster crows today, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly.
Yeah, they questioned Peter. Are you not one of them? Peter's accent gave him away. He was a Galilean from the north. Terrified, Peter lied. I don't know him. 3 times he said that. The rooster crowed. It was maybe 4 a.m. or something like that. Jesus turned to look at Peter. Peter remembered Jesus' prediction. He went out and wept bitterly. So what happened to Judas, Justin?
Yeah, we've talked about that before, right? And it seemed like Judas repented to me when I was first reading it. Like he brings back the money, he shows sorrow and so forth. But what do you think the difference is, Harry?
Several things. One is, of course, that he was sad about the way it all turned out. And I think it turned out different than when he was expecting, but he went out and hung himself because he realized that he had gone way wrong. But there's also a difference there that Judas was intentional sin. He had the money in his pocket, and Peter, he knew he was not going to sin. He was not going to do this. And through weakness, it happened. And there's a huge difference. If we have accidental sin, Jesus will look at us, but he'll also look at it. He's okay with that in the end. But if our life is intentionally sinful, that's not where we want to be. I also love what Jesus said at the Last Supper to Peter. He says, I have prayed for you, and when you have recovered, strengthen your brethren. That was what Peter did. It was really interesting how Jesus knew he was going to fail. And then he knew he was going to repent, and he knew he would recover, and then he could strengthen his brothers. And at Pentecost, he led the church 50 days later. The chief priests, though, they interrogated Jesus as a criminal. For the most part, Jesus was silent. And then they demanded, are you the Messiah? And Jesus acknowledged it. That was enough. He needed to die. That night was long for the guards and the soldiers, and they started baiting and abusing Jesus. They blindfolded Jesus and slapped him. Who hit you? Obviously, if he was the Messiah, he would know, and they're just playing a game with him. Then they spit on him and slapped him and abused him till morning. At daybreak, the Sanhedrin met and convicted Jesus for the crime of blasphemy, claiming to be the Messiah. They had to do that in daylight because technically that, even though they're killing Jesus, they still had to do it kind of right. Then off to Pilate they went with Jesus to have him crucified. Pilate was annoyed. This was festival time, not crucifixion time. The Jewish leaders told Pilate that Jesus was in rebellion to Caesar and telling the people not to pay taxes. If that was true, they would have loved Jesus. Pilate finds out that Jesus is from Galilee, so he sends him off to Herod. Herod had killed John the Baptist and always wanted to meet Jesus. Jesus refused to speak to Herod at all, never did. Herod had killed his friend John. Herod and his crew abused Jesus also and sent him back to Pilate. Pilate continues to try to rescue Jesus. In John 9:1, it says that Pilate had Jesus scourged. I believe that Pilate thought that this would satisfy the Jews and hoped to release him, because that scourging really, really was rough on a person. But that didn't work. They saw Jesus all bloodied and beat up, and they still wanted him killed. Finally, in desperation, Pilate had water basin brought out and publicly washed his hands and stated, I am innocent of this man's blood. It is your responsibility. In Matthew 27, verse 25, it says, all the people answered, his blood is on us and our children. Sadly, that applies to all who reject Jesus even today. In Acts 2:39, Peter gives them and us the off ramp Jesus provides to remove this curse and to repent and of our sin and come to him. Now Jesus goes to the cross. The trial is over.
And this is a really good time to ponder these things, right? So thank you very much for this, Harry.
Yeah, thank you.